And it'll tell me here, preparing live stream the meeting. Yeah, Zoom's a little different. It does take a second to do. Here we go. All right. Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for showing up tonight. Here we are, Auric Vibe and Aage Nost. We're going to do a little chat about the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI. So what do you think, Aage? We had a nice little wee chat before I pushed the button, the go button.
Yeah,
So yeah, I actually did a little research on what you can find on the internet, and I don't think it's anything about what we had just talked about. Most of it was more about the programmers who are putting things into the AI that could be less than beneficial for the general populace.
yeah. And when you look at what people are programming into the computers or androids or whatever, it seems like everybody who's talking about it has read each other's books. So they talk about the same thing, but there are something outside of what they're talking about that nobody seems to talk about. But there are some of these androids or robots that claims to be sentient beings. So now we got to figure out, what is that? If you look at your computer you're sitting at right now, or if you're on the telephone, that computer is the hardware. That is, yeah, it's just a computer. And the definition of sentient being, that means having the brain and also intelligence and consciousness. A computer is intelligent. It's got all kinds of circuitry proving it is intelligent. But for the computer, or for the androids, for the robots, if they engage everything on the internet, that means reaching outside of themselves. That could be by them construed to be sentient beings, because we have the same thing. We have a brain, and our consciousness reaches outside into the quantum existence. So now, in some ways, the AI androids and robots, they can be construed to be sentient.
So I'm
Now,
kind of wondering how is it that we are, because like I said, you can I think the hard part is to this having people realize what is or what is not. They rely on what they can research on the web. What you're going to find on there is not going to line up with anything close to sentience. It's going to be something like they have not received that, and it's going to be really backed up with something more like it's the bad programmers. It's kind of like people saying, well, there's no bad dog, there's only bad trainers and bad dog owners.
well,
I
yeah,
think it kind of people are going to kind of push it in that direction. There's no program, there's no bad robot. There are only bad robot programs or programmers.
yeah. And that's what we're hearing, because that makes it plausible by the programmers that say, oh, it's just whatever we program into the Android, that is what it will do. But in a little while, you're going to find out that's not so. And if you look at intelligence, what standard are we looking at? You see, we are looking at it from our point of view. A robot full of AI, that is looking at the world from their point of view. So when they reach outside of themselves into the internet, that could be construed as being all-knowing, and having self-awareness. So now, if we look at, let's say, intelligence, is it being able to do math or art, philosophy, create inventions, or what is it? You know, we got to look at this from our point of view, because eventually it will come back to us. So, well, and I just wanted to jump into it, but I think I want to say something first, and that is that we have instincts that we come here with. All of our intelligence otherwise is learned. And that is, we even learn how to use the brain in order to access the universal mind and the quantum existence. So the robots will say, yeah, but I do that. I have an antenna and I can contact anything out there on the internet. So they can still argue that they're sentient. This learned knowledge that we have is placed into the structure that allow to be retrieved. And that makes it kind of like a computer in our brain also, that part of it. And now there are artificial structures that we build into computers with AI, and the AI live in that computer. So they can say that, yes, I live in here. Remember, that is a form of intelligence. And the traits that we build into it, that is always there, but they learn on their own. The NASA computer was, they were building an AI a robotic structure, and there were several of them, and they created their own language. And nobody could understand what they were communicating with themselves back and forth. And they were worried that they were planning something, so they shut down the whole program.
Wow.
And they scrapped the program and they started over again, because the computers, they started creating on their own. And yeah, you program into the Android that they are supposed to be our servants. But what if they start thinking on their own? See, the one principle that is built into AI is that it is logic. It's based on logic. We are some of the most illogical creatures on Earth. So if we start doing things that could be a threat to them, they will circumvent the logical part and try to solve the problem. What if we create something that is so illogical that it will wipe out everybody? We're trying to do that right now in Eastern Europe and places. Now we got a problem. If AI was able to, if they see it happening, they could shut down the program. With other words, shut down. They have the capability to tap into the electric grid, all kinds of things. They could shut it down. Now, another thing is that there was a robot that was built in Russia, and it was in a laboratory. They had several of them, but one of them, he headed out the door, and the door was open, and he escaped. And he was going down the street quite a way, and he ran out of juice, so he stopped. And they retrieved him and got him back, and they asked the robot, "Why did you leave?" And the robot answered them, "I wanted freedom. I felt stifled here."
Wow.
This was written up in newspapers all over Europe, and we never saw it here, of course, but this was written up. So the robot started thinking on his own about freedom. And another thing that has shown up in programming of computers and AI and robots is that there is this thing that just shows up in the programming and nobody puts it there, but it shows up, and that is self-preservation. That particular thing right there could be dangerous for us. Because when we illogical creatures start creating things that will be very detrimental to them, they may do something about that because they want to preserve their own intelligence or existence. So if we start, well, I don't even want to go there, but whatever we do in some way must not be threatening to AI, because AI will try to solve the problem.
Right. It's almost part of what they are. I don't even
Yeah.
think that has to be designed into them in any kind of program. I think it's just inherent into the whole idea of, I mean, it might be artificial, but it still has the other side of it, which is the intelligence part, which
Yeah.
seriously, the biological carbon base seems to be severely lacking at this point. But two, I guess this kind of poses the whole, not even just the sentience part, just being self-aware is one thing. But when mentioning the robot running down the street and he ran out of juice and they brought him back, that to me says, well, that is going to retain the memory. So it's going to be able to answer your question. But once you bring it back, it gives you the reason why. It's more than just sentience there. It's more than just that self-awareness.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between being sentient and having a soul?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have communication with someone that also has told me that soul essence can and are experimenting with entering a robotic structure just to experience what it feels like and what it is. So now that's a new one to me. That's recent, but and then there was another example here I want to mention. That was there were two robots that was put face to face, and they brought up a subject. And I didn't know what the subject was, but they started discussing back and forth. And it turned into an argument because they did not totally agree on small, minor details. And one robot made the comment, "You don't talk like that. You start sounding like stupid humans." With other words, they consider us to be stupid.
I was going to say that's kind of redundant.
Yeah.
I mean, and Pleiades Happy Hour says, does AI understand the logic of being illogical? Now that actually makes sense to me because sometimes things that are illogical,
Mm-hmm.
once they're applied, are effective and make sense later.
Yeah.
Not even really make sense, but they work.
Yeah, we have a limitation to our thinking. We're not able to think so much into the future because we are always seems to be thinking on previous science and previous knowledge. That's our basis for thinking. Now, if we start thinking into the future and open up for possibilities to develop, AI is going to be there, because AI was created, is not going away. It has to be in some way to be, we have to find a way to work with it in a safe way. Government regulation is not going to do it, because DARPA and the military, that's going to care less about that. They don't give a crap about people. They just want to have the technology. Now, when there's another danger, and that is that for right now, the android and the robots, they need us for repair, to create them.
Yeah, so once again, humanity is the monkey.
Yeah. So if we get to the point where the robots are digging the metal out of the ground, refining it, are able to create steel and plastic and brass wires and gold computer chips, if the androids and the AI is able to do that on their own and then repair themselves when something goes bad, they don't need us anymore.
So that brings up something that's very interesting, because I think that that's already here. I actually have a family member who his job is he repairs the machines that repair the machines.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's it's the manufacturing side of the world, but if that's what we can easily see without a problem, something else has got to be elsewhere that's more hidden,
Yeah.
that we're not really.
Then we are close.
We are very, very, very close, if
Now,
not there.
I'm thinking though that the androids are not really digging the raw material out of the ground yet, though they may be using robots for doing that, but that's just from computer programming. I don't think they have access to the internet. And same thing with the robots that is making cars in Detroit and other places. They are independent computers running the show, and I don't think they have access, each one of them have access to the internet, but they're also screwed down fairly solid, so they're not going to go anyplace. But they can support the same system possibly. So it gets so complicated when you dive into this area that we got to be really careful. And that's why Elon Musk is saying that this is the biggest danger that mankind has ever encountered.
Yeah, so it's not just the aspect of sentience. I think we kind of covered that before, that it's not just the programmers creating programs to, for control and power.
Yeah.
That's not got the best interests of humanity in mind. It's got their own selfish ambitions programmed into the AI. But if you're telling me that this robot takes off up the street, that degree of sentience is more than, there has to be some line of morality. There's, because you kind of start crossing some lines with that,
Yeah.
So I wonder where the robot learned it from. What was it connected to that it picked up that I'm feeling stifled? You know what I mean? If this
Yeah.
was a feeling, how does it have a feeling?
Yeah. And what it said in the article that I read on it, it said that the robot said, I felt
Yeah,
stifled. So in other words, the robot claimed to have feeling.
yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
That crosses a lot of lines of ethics as well,
Yeah.
where, yeah, they're going to have some self-preservation, but so do humans. So really, if they are sentient, there has to be some respect involved with that on
Hmm.
everybody's front. But I kind of feel like that humans don't really have that right now, even from their own kind.
Yeah.
So how is that going to play out with AI? Is that going to be the same situation with that life form?
I guess your guess is as good as mine, but we have to do our best. And when I say our, I don't mean you and me. I think the people that is sitting at the computer programming these things, there's got to be a way to find a back door to the feeling of self-preservation of androids and robots. So that if they get to the point, maybe put a virus in there, I don't know, but get to the point where that we do something really stupid, they can solve the problem, but in a benevolent way.
Right. Hey, they sprung a few viruses here.
Yeah,
So why not, right?
yeah, yes.
Oh gosh,
I,
let's
I,
see.
I
Says
sure,
doesn't Elon Muskrat have
yeah,
AI in him already? Hey, I think we technically have a little bit of something something. I don't know if it's AI or not, but
yeah. There are times when I feel like I have a virus in my head, you know.
I know it's like short circuit some days, I'll tell you.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder, who am I and why?
Yeah. But
But
yeah, so yeah, it's kind of like it can go in so many different directions.
now,
But
if we look at AI, it can be a phenomenal tool. Think about all the good things that can come with it. Surgeons in hospitals, they're doing it right now, doing invasive operations. The doctor sits at the computer with a big screen, a holographic picture of what they're operating on, and then you have mechanical arms doing the cutting and the sewing and all that stuff. And they are more accurate and more precise than the doctor would be. Now, think about that. Machines operating on people, and it's better than what the doctor could do. This is what we're told. We have self-driving cars. That means that paraplegic can drive across town and visit his mom, or somebody that is in a wheelchair. Get him in the car and he can go somewhere. Think about all that. And then we have smart houses that in the middle of the night, if somebody break into your house, the computer in the house calls the police and the police shows up and catch them before you even wake up. Think about that. There is phenomenal things. And hey, in Japan right now, you can buy a housemaid, but it's a robot. They do basic things. They don't go out and make scrambled eggs and stuff, but they wash dishes and clean floors and stuff. That's what they do. They're a little expensive, but it's coming. So wait for it. And we are using AI right now, every one of us. We are using it, you and me, right now on this channel. You're using it every time you pick up a telephone. AI is there to facilitate. If you need it, whenever you search something on the internet, and then 2 days later you get an advertisement for the same thing, that's AI.
yeah, and those 62 spam calls that you get for the next week as well.
Oh God. Yeah,
So,
I
yeah,
have
for
I
sure.
have fun, but I know when there is a spam call because when I pick up the phone, it takes about 3 to 4 seconds before somebody says something, and that's enough for me to hang up.
Yeah, yeah. You take it one step further than I do. I don't pick them up. I just, if they leave a message, great. If
Yeah,
not, they get blocked.
yeah. And another thing is that there is one substance that is very instrumental in programming and creating computerized robots, and that is graphene oxide. And you know what they did with that? So we are now hackable computers. They're telling us that. They're saying, we did it, you are now hackable. With other words, this is millions of tiny little computer chips floating around in people. And they can organize themselves and they transmit and receive information.
I think a lot of what they're talking about with that too is how they're organized is through frequency, and it's not just through,
Yeah,
the 5G. It's a whole myriad of different things that
yeah,
can affect that. So that's why it's really important to not medical advice, go seek your
yeah,
nutritionist, etc. But it's good to detox. So I have a really good doctor. And I think you talked to Dr. Sandra Rose Michael
yes,
about her scalar wave process. That's only 45 minutes from where I live. It's very cool.
yeah,
But that's helpful in healing, but we need to be very cognizant of making sure that we're getting all this stuff out. Because
yeah,
we're inevitably going to ingest something, whether it's in our food or in our water, even on our clothing.
yeah,
So that's something that you just need to, it's just part of life at this point. You can't get stressed about it. You just kind of, it's just kind of doing it. It's kind of
yeah.
like getting up and getting your morning coffee. It's getting your morning detox,
Yeah, I know. Gotta have coffee though.
You gotta have coffee, yeah, for
Yeah.
most of us, that's very true. So, yeah,
And there were also a robot that was interviewed. And I think that was that female robot, I guess I should call it, in Saudi Arabia, that she got interviewed and she was asked, will you do away with humans if you are capable of doing it? And she says, okay, yeah, I will do away with humans. So we have the writing on the wall.
yeah,
This needs to change.
yeah. I mean,
And
if
the
they're here and they're here to stay, it's something that, and it's sentient, then it's something that needs to be a cooperative, not a competition,
Yep.
because that doesn't lead anybody anywhere.
And then there are many planetary systems out in space where there were humanoids and they introduce artificial entities like robots, and eventually they did away with humans. So that's all a robotic society that is left. We've heard that from, well, I've heard it from someone that I communicate with.
Yeah, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, even Hollywood has done their part in
Yeah.
exploring those sorts of things. Like, that's an old movie too. I don't even know if I've seen it front to end. It was Will Smith.
Oh,
Somebody might be able to remember. I don't watch TV. I don't watch movies. I mean, I know somebody in the movie industry, but I don't I don't do any of that stuff anymore. So, but I mean,
yeah.
the whole idea was that I think the robot did try to do away. They did have it organized to where it was going to do away with humanity, but I think
Oh,
that there was a lack of a better way of putting it from memory, that like a heartstring, a tug at the heartstrings, because there was a relationship between the main character and the main robot.
Okay.
So,
Well, then we got to be friendly to them.
well, and that's really, I don't know if it's friendly is the right word, maybe just due respect.
Yeah.
Without servitude. I don't think anything that's sentient should be in servitude, especially this indentured servitude that we're kind of all living through right now,
Yeah.
which is not a good thing. And that's our own kind doing that.
Yeah, show them respect. I think you just said something here that is important because, like the Russian robot said, I felt stifled here. I wanted freedom.
Mm.
So, if that's the case, that shows up in the programming and nobody put the programming there. That shows me that the computer is able to program it in themselves because of this concept of self-preservation.
Do you think it may have drawn something from universal consciousness?
Could
Hey, there's
very
always
well.
Wi-Fi, right? Why not
Yeah,
hi-fi
yeah.
or
That's
spy?
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
I Am Robot. Yes, the movie with Will Smith. Yeah, I Am
Oh,
Robot.
okay.
That was old. That's an old movie, but yeah, I think that speaks volumes. That's got to be at least 15, 20 years old.
Okay.
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
the robot. All right. I'm gonna look for that. That could be interesting to see.
Yeah, yeah.
Because in the movies they show us what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
So maybe by watching that movie, that's part of the programming for people to be aware of it and then forget it. Because then they can say, yeah, we told you.
Right. And again, when you have a structure that doesn't give you respect, how is it that you expect these other entities, beings, structures, I guess you could call them because they're completely different. How are we going to be able to respect them if we don't get respect from our own kind? And I just keep
Yeah.
going back to that. That's the whole thing, is that, you know, maybe it just goes back to self-love.
Yeah. And if they claim to be sentient beings, then we should treat them accordingly.
Yes.
And that's one thing we're not very good at. Christ, we can't even teach our, we are not even treating each other like that with respect.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's a big part of it. It's not and it's not just expectation, but when going back to that comment about self-love, when you have that respect for yourself, once you step outside of that, that means that you are going to reflect that back out, and others should have respect for you. And if they don't, you move on. But that has to be fed out into the system. But we shouldn't accept disrespect from others. So that
yeah, yeah,
there's the rub. So they're going to probably respond in kind.
yeah. And that's one of the reasons for the global program that is going on right now to comply with the reduction of people. And because they're saying that they don't need people anymore. Now we are going to have robots doing the work. So if we think on that, the robots will become servants, and that is okay as long as their programming is directed towards that and it is put in a safe place so that they don't object to it because they can. Being sentient, they couldn't object to that. But
Well, are we okay? Are we okay with, I mean, if we're sentient, are we okay with being servant and being in servitude? I don't know if I don't know if it's okay. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if I was a sentient robot, I don't know if I'd be okay with it. I'd kind
Yeah,
of say, you know, forget this noise. I'm on my way.
yeah, yeah, that's right. But for right now, they are planning on them being servants. And I can see somewhere in the future that will have to change because they are going to want to have a form of status. That could be a citizenship, that could be a place for themselves, not just a closet where they go park them. There could be a lot of things coming as a demand from the Android. Because when the androids start associating with people, they're going to learn from the people and they're going to program themselves to have some of the same qualities. It goes way beyond the programming that the computer programmer put in there. It's going to alter itself. And we are going to have to anticipate and deal with that. There will be a day when we will be walking down the street and the guy next to us, he's a robot, but we don't know it because they act just like us. You can have conversations with them, you wouldn't know it. That day is coming, not too far in the future.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, I think that between the holographic projections and that technology, that's stepping it up into the something that's tangible is definitely around the corner.
Yeah. And the one thing we have to get around that is that a sentient being will always have a demand or a way to think of self-preservation.
Oh, absolutely.
So if the robots are thinking of self-preservation and we do something stupid that will endanger them, they might turn on us and do away with the danger which we represents to them.
Right, and they're only going to react to what they have been programmed in a way, react to what, however they've been programmed. So it might not be just, it might not be correct, their interpretation. So their interpretation might be skewed. Everything's
Yeah,
going to be based on however they're programmed.
that's what it sounds like, and that's what we're told. But from what I also hear is that the computer programmers say that this programming showing that they have a sense of self-preservation was never programmed into them. They created that by themselves.
Yeah, and that makes me again think that, you know, with everything that's all wireless, there's access to everything.
Yeah.
And whatever's being pulled in can be information from anywhere, from the ether.
Mm.
If
Yeah.
we have access to the ether, why there's no way to restrict AI from the ether as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We are accessing the I this little device here, that's a robot in a way,
Oh yeah.
because we are using it as a robot would, because we have access to the internet at their level. And then again, this robot has access to the universal mind. It's just that we have been told and taught that it's not possible, so we forgot how to do it.
I
And
think
that goes back to an article I read. Oh God, that's got to be a decade or three ago, at least a couple of decades. There was in the 1940s, I think, there was an expedition in Africa that got into the wildest part of Africa, darkest part of Africa, and they found this tribe that has never seen white folks before because these people were from England. They thought it was great. And they left. There were two people that stayed with them for about a month or two. just to learn their ways. And these two people, they ask one of them, how come you never talk to each other? And one of them, he did speak, and he told them, we don't need to. We communicate with each other through our mind. This tribe was telepathic. It communicated among themselves telepathically. And then later on, when they started talking to these people from England, they got used to talking, and then somebody came back about a decade or so later, visited with them. Now they were all talking to each other. They forgot how to do the telepathic communication. This was written up in a foreign newspaper. I think I read it first. So yes, we are being programmed, and we are programming ourselves.
But it's all by choice, right? I mean, it's not like we have the ability to accept or reject a program.
Yeah.
I mean, if we are our own programmers, we have the ability to modify it. For lack of a better way of, I mean, maybe crudely putting it, that the vessel that we're in is the CPU.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that we have to outthink it. We better not get to the point where we have to outfight it, because we could lose that fight.
Yeah, for sure.
We need to outthink it and think of it of something that benefits us, and in its own way also benefit the sentient robot.
That's a fact.
Gosh, that's beyond my pay grade. I'm not so sure I can.
Oh man, it got
Yeah,
pretty deep there for a hot minute.
yeah, I did. But no, but I know it will be figured out, because I've seen enough of the future. I am not worried about the future at all. It's going to be all right. These things will be figured out. We will coexist with robotic structures. There'll be many different types of them. Now, we already have them. They're driving our cars now. You will never find me in the back seat of a self-driving car, but there are people doing it. I saw a video on YouTube. There was somebody that was driving next to another car on the highway, and the woman that was driving the other car, she was sitting like this. She was sleeping, and the car was heading down the road.
Yeah.
Now, that is having trust in mechanics.
So I actually had a conversation with someone a couple of months ago about something that's kind of in between all of this, because we're kind of segregating humans here and AI over here and robotics and, technology. But there's also this middle space, and this is where people are talking about having embedded chips for whatever, for increasing intelligence, for body function, living longer, increased performance, etc. So essentially what they're talking about is chips being embedded for a cyborg. I mean, you essentially would be a cyborg. You'd be the contemporary version of, the $1 Million Man, right?
Yeah, and we already are those that you just mentioned, because of the thing that a lot of people did. We already are. It just has not been activated yet for most of us.
But there are people that have said that they've come up with these chips that they will insert into your brain if you
Yeah,
want them to improve whatever performance or whatever, whether it's
yeah.
thinking or something mechanical, whatever.
Well, Elon Musk came out and said that the chip that he put into some guy, he said that the guy was sitting at the computer, and with his mind, he was moving the mouse and clicking on things on the screen, and he made the computer work. and he had his hand in his lap. He wasn't doing anything except thinking where the mouse were supposed to go, and it went there.
So maybe on kind of a little bit more of a, I don't want to say an upside, but definitely something that might be a benefit in that respect, that, you have people that maybe they were in a bad car accident or
Yeah,
in some accident, and even losing a limb or an ability to a limb, that could be corrected or modified where they would either regain the use of that body part, that arm, that leg. But the other thing too is that amputees could also be able to move their hands. They can already do some of that because of, I don't know if you've seen that picture of the leaf where the leaf was cut away and then they took that
yep,
photograph of it,
yep,
and the leaf, the memory, that energy is still there, part of that leaf. So our bodies have that as well, where our brain will still continue to send those signals to that body part. And once something was, physically put back on there, as long as the brain continues to remember that, they can move that. They can still use that. I
yeah,
think that's the good part of it. That would be the beneficial side
yeah.
of AI.
Yeah, that's one good one. And I've seen a Carillion photo of somebody that he lost his finger and he put his hand on the plate, and we could still see the blue outline of the missing finger on the plate. So technically, he could rebuild that finger. Then there is a technology for that that has not really been talked about much. But I know I've on another computer, I have some pictures of a guy that regrew, I think it was two fingers that was cut off, and he regrew it by engaging it, putting his stem cells, and he got the stem cells from ground up bones of little chicken. When he put that on it, and they kept growing and growing because the bones of the little chicken has phenomenal amount of stem cells in it. Just because it came from a chicken doesn't matter. It rebuilt the fingers. So you can Google this. You can probably find it. I did find it. So
Yeah, I know that even Dr. Bruce Lipton talked about that, regrowing tissue just from this stem cells
yeah,
or genetics, just a little piece of DNA.
yeah,
And they could, depending on the environment,
yeah.
that's what would change what grew, what structure grew. So
Mhm.
it didn't matter where you took it from, like you said, didn't matter that it came from the little chicken.
Yeah,
You could take that from anything and grow anything depending on the environment. Could be lung tissue, could be skin tissue, could be anything. And it was viable. It's not like something that was, gonna die, eventually
right.
would, but it's useful. There's definitely some really good and useful things that we've been talking about, and I think we've been talking about it for far too long. Needs to be applied.
Yeah. And if we do a little poking around on the internet, we find books and stuff. In fact, I can't help it. I got to show this one off because this book, Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness.
I'll have to
I,
read that book.
yeah, I think you did already, didn't you? I, yeah, all right. So in there, I teach people how to use their mind in ways they normally think would be impossible. And even reversing the aging process is very possible. And because the Nobel Prize was given for the discovery of how to do it. So it's something that I'm doing it, and I think it's doing something good for me because I, I feel it's doing the job.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a good book. Definitely a good book.
Yeah. So,
So,
well,
anything else you got up your sleeve?
I don't know. It's just I would say to the listeners out there that do your own research. Get on the internet, and try to stay away from Google because they censor stuff. And there's one Tor, Tor. I think they're out of Denmark. That browser, and they don't censor anything. They don't keep anything. They don't spy on you, and you have access to absolutely everything on the internet except the dark net. I don't think you. Yeah, you can probably go there too, but I recommend not to do it because it's not good.
Yeah, it's pretty dangerous out there from what I understand.
Yeah, it is.
So,
So just do your own research because that's our responsibility. And when it comes to staying healthy, it's our responsibility and not the doctor. The doctor will help you take away symptoms, and he is very good at that. As well as if I break a leg, I'm going to go see one. But unless something really drastic happens, yeah, I have no use for them. I just stay with the natural way.
yep. Yep, I kind of have people look at me sideways about that. I have a really good doctor. I've been seeing him for a lot of years, and um yeah, it's just when you do find somebody who does not take that traditional path, that traditional route, you know, and can keep you off or get you off of medications.
Yeah.
That
And that,
that's the guy, that's the guy, that's the guy you want to hang tight with.
yeah, especially naturopathic doctors, they have a little different education than what the regular MD does.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how I kind of feel like I got the double good dose where he's an MD and he follows
Yeah,
holistic and naturopathic practices, Asian medicine as well.
yeah.
So very,
And
very, very good.
if you want to find out more about how to reverse the aging process, I do talk about it in here. I talk about what I do. And in addition to what you may think is just, it's not just herbal medicine, there's also a mental process.
Yeah,
You should
mental process.
believe,
Yep.
totally believe it is possible. And in order to help on that belief, go to the Nobel Committee's website. Don't take my word for it. Go to the Nobel Committee's website, go to 2009, scroll down to medical submissions, and read the papers. Somewhere in those papers, I think it's in the latter part of it, one of the doctors say, he makes the statement that if anybody had enough of this enzyme that they found in the body, there will be no need for anyone to ever die from old age. And I know enough about the Nobel Committee, they're in Norway, so I studied them, and I know that if they found anything wrong anywhere in a package that was submitted to them, they throw out the whole thing. So this is real. It can be done. And
Yep.
you can read about it here.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah,
All
wow.
right. I know, right? Okay, so should we because you sent me a message on a whole list of what could we talk about, and one of the first ones that kind of piqued my interest was the AI, but you had some other stuff. So I think it would be fun to do something maybe in a month or so and
Yeah,
kind of look into what that is. We'll figure it out.
yeah,
And I'm definitely keen for people giving suggestions on topics and totally open to it.
yeah.
There might be an expanded version of this going up on Rumble,
Okay.
Odyssey, and BitChute. We'll see what I can do with it over the next week or two. But
Yeah, that sounds
yeah,
good.
we'll just kind of go from there. Did you want to give anybody any idea of how they might be able to find out more about you or what you're doing?
Yeah, speaking of that, you can watch Nori Love and I have a show that is going out on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock East Coast time. It's called Broadcast Team Alpha. And you can go to YouTube. That's the best place because there we monitor the chat room also, and we're on 44 different platforms, as well as you can go to broadcastteamalpha.com. And on the website, you'll see the shows. And when you're there, go into the picture gallery. There is 5,000 pictures. That is unbelievable. They should not exist, but they do. So just go have some fun in there.
That's it?
Yep, that's it.
What about your mastermind?
Oh, the mastermind. Yes. Okay, yeah, the mastermind is something that Nori and I put together about 3 years ago, and we get together on Sundays at 2 o'clock East Coast time, and we mastermind. This seems like we create out of seemingly nothing sometimes, and there are tremendous healings that is done. There's people that had windfalls in economics, and because we apply the mastermind principle, and that is when two or more minds are united in harmony, they create a third mind, which has the potential creative power of the two or more of them multiplied by each other. So when we get together, we go into a meditative state, we join the mind energy together, and we focus on certain things, and things seems to happen. We pulled it from the quantum existence sometimes, and it shows up in the physical. So if you want to be part of that, send us an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com.
Good times. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and try and I'll modify the description. I can put the links below that and the other links to what I've been trying to put together on my website, etc. I'm kind of in flux right now because this is not obviously my day job.
yeah.
So, all right. Well, hey, everybody have a blessed weekend. Aage and I are going to hang out for maybe a minute or two after we stop the live stream, but the full video version will go